All right, you can see me?
I can see you, yeah. The audience can see you. All right, Debra, that is a beautiful, deeply moving film. Thank you so much for letting us screen it here in Lake Placid. We're really thrilled.
Well, we're very happy that it was themed. And with me is Director Cisco, who sings in the film.
You have some serious fans up here. And I'm really grateful to you for agreeing to do this digital interview. I've never done this sort of thing myself before. I don't know if you have already or not.
No, I have not. No, it feels strange.
Now you'll never have to leave home again and go on tour or anything like that. You can do it this way.
Oh God, the pluses and minuses with everything 1 and 0 has got a plus and a minus.
Exactly. I'm going to ask you a few questions about the making of the film and just the whole process, and also then try to turn it over to the audience and have them come forward with a few questions too. I just want to ask you to talk a little bit about, first, what drew you to the material, and what drew you, maybe was this the material itself, to the region. I mean, you were raised, I think, in Washington, D.C., went to school in New England, and have lived in New York. You're not from the Ozarks. Right.
So true, Northeast Corridor, exactly.
Right. So can you talk a little bit about what drew you to the material first, and then to the region?
You know, when I read the novel, also entitled Winter's Bone by Danny Woodrell, I was trying to conjure what was described, and it was a kind of house that I was not familiar with. It was a landscape that I knew nothing about, and yet it had such a charge to it. Not just the geology of it, but what it means to live in a hardscrabble place. What does that mean for many people to live without any kind of cushion? And I couldn't really tell from the novel what time frame that this was set in, and I felt so compelled to find out what would the life of a young woman under the conditions described be like. And I was very, very engrossed and wanted to go and had to go down there and see for myself. And frankly, it's always a red flag when you don't come from a place. Can you take on a project from a place that you don't know? And what will it take to do that? And I feel like my answer could never be clearer than this project, which is having to collaborate hugely with people from those exact coordinates.
Can you talk too about the casting? Jennifer is just magnificent in this film. How old is she?
Jennifer's 19, and she was 18 at the time of filming.
What a beautiful, beautiful piece of acting it is. You managed to cast people who, while they look local, they look like the characters that they're portraying, should look to our eyes at least. On the other hand, they're also timeless and mythic. Those faces come from every place on the planet and from everywhere in the history of the species, it seems. Was that a quality you were looking for when you were casting?
No, I feel like some of casting is gifts that are presented, people that cross your path in that process. And as you said, you know, once you go to a place and stay there long enough, sort of this very intense spectrum of what life looks like on people's bodies and their faces, you know, what it means to weather a hard life and live in a difficult place, those are qualities that you can't necessarily just desire them in your brain. You have to actually be looking at the people around you. And, you know, I think the luckiest thing was that some people that we actually solicited were willing to work with us. You know, it's odd to be propositioned. It's odd to be doing your day job and have some strange-looking, you know, New Yorker type come up to you and be, you know, sort of very interested in you, attracted to you, ask you if you would consider being in a film.
Yeah, want to be in my movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound so totally believable.
Yeah. What about locations? Were you working with existing locations, or did you have to have them built, designed, and so forth for you?
We were working in all the homes we were working in were lived-in homes that were, over time, we were granted permission to shoot in them after having scouted and trying to link up real homes with homes that fit the description, could be very close to the description that we had read. And the housing stock really was very photogenic, and it was not hard to find places that could very much be plausible for Ree's home and for her uncle's home. And there again, a local man who was the fixer for the film, Richard Michael, he was a person who made all those overtures, all those first initial encounters on our behalf, and then slowly introduced us and slowly made that come into play.
And I want to ask you too about the regional accent language. Did you have an accent coach, or did you work with someone local to shape your actors' accents?
Well, this film was so blessed. We didn't have a coach, but early on, a lot of people that we ended up interviewing in the sort of 5 research trips we took were lovely enough to speak into a Zoom recorder and just tell me anecdotes, and then those anecdotes were copied, and Jennifer had access to them. John Hawkes had access to them. So it was very useful to get the sound of people's voices and their accents in people's heads early on. And then the cast hails from Kentucky. Jennifer grew up in Kentucky. Dale Dickey, who plays Mayrab, comes from Eastern Tennessee. The bondsman from Mississippi. Best friend from Arkansas. So luckily, I was so relieved from the anxiety, East Coast anxiety, of how was I going to be any way useful or supportive to the cast in the process of having them listen and be able to take on the dialect. And then the rest of the cast were helping out because they were local. They were Southern Missouri residents who could then fill the set and fill every single day of production with their lyrical voices, and that gets absorbed. That's heard. That's just to help. That's live coaching.
The music, I just want to speak for a minute, have you speak about the music, because it's so beautiful and so beautifully integrated into the flow of the film, where it comes and it goes, both in the soundtrack music, but also in the performance. It was just that scene with the music was just a very powerful scene. It really felt, I think, one of the only music scenes in a film that I've seen that I totally believed. That wasn't set up for a movie. It was like the movie interrupted some people who were making music one night. It was really beautifully done. Did that grow out of, was that a natural outgrowth of your visits and time down there?
I'm sorry. I couldn't help resist the music after a while. The music was not written into the script. It was something that came out of the visits, and that's a pick-in session that's depicted in the film is how we did meet Meredith the first time. She was rehearsing at a friend's house, and the song stayed with us months and months and months, and repeatedly every visit was filled with music, inadvertently. Sometimes we would just literally find ourselves at the end of a long scouting day where music was being played, and we said we wouldn't be fools. This would be a disservice to the film. Given how there are so many things that are difficult to depict in the film, to not show the local medicine, would be a form of extreme. That's error by omission, and we didn't want any of that. No, and I want Meredith just to speak a little bit. I'm going to pass it to her.
Yeah, good. Hi, Meredith. Yeah. You want to speak a little bit about the music and playing it in the film?